Okay, so we're going to work with one of my favorite inquiry meditations today. And the reason why I often only do this with small groups is because it's kind of scary for people. And I actually only usually do it for small groups and groups of people that I know already. And today I was going to be a little crazy and offer it to whoever showed up. And then who showed up was a small group of people I know. So it worked out. So the inquiry comes from this book, Buddhism Without Beliefs, by Stephen Batchelor. He's this really cool teacher who is an atheist, Buddhist atheist. And it's a really cool book if you get a chance. So there's this inquiry. Since death alone is certain, and the time of death is uncertain, what should I do? So we're going to break it up into pieces to start, and then we'll put it all together. The thing with inquiry is you're not necessarily sitting there and coming up with an intellectual answer, right? It's more about what's going on in the body. He talks about it as I think he says a body tone maybe. He says, run this over in your mind, letting its import and challenge sink in. See if the question resonates in the body, triggers a nonverbal mood, a gut feeling. Give more attention to the bodily tone it evokes rather than the thoughts and ideas it generates. If you feel such a tone, silently rest in it until it fades. So we're more interested in, as we talk about it, the emotional sensations that arise as we're working with this inquiry. But there will be times, probably for all of you, where certain thought, perhaps an insight, arises in the mind, in the form of thought. And if that happens, you can absolutely explore it. If you find that you're just sitting there thinking the whole time, then come back to the body. So for me, when I'm doing inquiry work, I move back and forth. I ask the question, I let it drop in. This other teacher I really like Mukti, she talks about dropping the stone that is the question into a deep, deep water, just letting it drop to the bottom. And I like that visual. It's either Mukti or her husband Adyashanti that talks about that. Maybe both of them do. And that just really works for me, this idea of just dropping the question, like as if the top of your head is the surface of the water. You drop it and it's all the way down, 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 down. So once it drops down, I sort of spend some time with the body, kind of see what happens. I might drop the question again, I might drop it a few times and just sort of see, well, what's happening? What does it do? And then perhaps, a thought arises and I'll address it if it's in relation to the work, if it's just about like what I'm going to eat tonight, then I'm just going to let that thought go. Though I am kind of hungry, so that thought might come up today. If it's a thought that seems to pertain in a meaningful way to the inquiry, then I will take a moment with it and just kind of see what it wants to tell me. And then come right back to the body and see how the body responds to that thought. So it's kind of like this weaving back and forth. And what tends to happen for me with inquiry work is it's almost as if that weaving back and forth creates this direct channel deep, deep down into some core place within me. Sometimes with certain inquiries, it will be like a very old childhood memory unlocking, or just a deep, deep knowing unlocking. And then I just kind of hang out with that and see what it wants to show me. And so you might have a very different way to work with inquiry, but that's sort of my invitation to you. That's the way that I work with it. And if that's helpful for you, I invite you to work with it that way. This inquiry can be a little intense for some. And as always, you have the option to just come back to relaxation in the body, to your breath, to whatever feels good, whatever feels safe. And then you can come back to it when you're ready. Surprisingly, more often than not, people actually find the inquiry quite enjoyable and joyful. So who knows? Who knows what your experience will be today? It might just feel confusing. That's okay too. And we'll just play around with it. Okay, so we're going to get started. Go ahead and settle into your posture. Lengthen your spine. And start to invite some relaxation into the body. And we will start by relaxing the forehead. Relax all those muscles of the forehead and the eyebrows and the space between the eyebrows. And soften down into the eyes, all the little muscles around the eyes, the gaze behind the eyelids, all of that relaxing, softening, releasing. Inviting that relaxation to move down over your cheeks. Into your jaw. Let that mouth drop open a little bit as the jaw releases completely. Let it go. Relaxing the mouth. Really letting the mouth and the jaw release. And inviting that relaxation to move down into your neck. The neck releasing and relaxing. And over the shoulders, shoulders dropping. Arms relaxing. Relaxing down past the elbows. Continuing down past the wrists. And into the hands. Good. We're going to begin to bring that relaxation into the chest. Relaxing down into the solar plexus area, the upper stomach. And into the stomach, the lower stomach, the gut, releasing. Let it go. How much can you relax the gut? How much can you soften the surface and the inside of the stomach? This is a part of the body that we clench, we tighten up, we want to protect, and that makes sense because it is a soft, vulnerable part of the body. But for most of the time, for most of our lives, there's not anything really threatening our stomach, and certainly right now, no one's going to come punch you in the stomach or anything, so see if you can really just let it be soft. And relaxing the sides of the torso. I'll begin to invite relaxation into the back, just using the muscles you need for sitting, but then really inviting everything else to soften. So soften in the upper back, back of the shoulders, shoulder blades, between the shoulder blades. And if your shoulders are hunched up or they're curved over, just really find a nice neutral place for them and then relax. And relax into your mid-back. And relax into your lower back. And relax the butt, the hips, the pelvic area. Release any clenching. Rather than tightening up the pelvic floor like you do in yoga, let it release. So it's the feeling of holding your pee in when you tighten it and then not holding it in when you release it. And if relaxing in these areas of the body makes you tighten up in the jaw or the shoulders or the stomach or anywhere else, see if you can just gently attend to those parts of the body, inviting them again to release and relax. Softening through the body. And now relaxing down the legs. Past the knees. Down past the ankles. And into the feet. Good. So this is a place you can always return. You can always return back to this relaxed space. If you're ready to move forward into the inquiry work, we'll dive into that now. So let's begin. Let's take the first question, first part of the question, and drop it into that body of water. So the first piece of the inquiry is, since death alone is certain, since death alone is certain, dropping that deep, deep, deep within yourself. And then beginning to explore what the body has to tell you. And there's not a right way here. The body may have a lot to tell you, the body may be rather calm. Just hang out with what's there. Attending primarily to the body unless there's a thought that seems like it will be fruitful to explore. Again, right now we're working with, since death alone is certain. And you can repeat this piece of the inquiry as many times as you like, but it's not a mantra, so we're not saying it over and over and over. We're dropping it deep and then seeing what wants to surface. But you're welcome to drop it many times, as long as it's not frenetic, chaotic. Since death alone is certain. Exploring this in a curious and friendly way. Since death alone is certain. And now we'll move on to the next piece. The next piece of the inquiry to drop deep inside. And the time of death is uncertain. And the time of death is uncertain. And the time of death is uncertain. Noticing what your body has to tell you, has to show you, what reaction it has to that part of the inquiry. And perhaps there's some thought that you can follow to a sensation that will give you access to the deeper part of yourself. Perhaps a deeper knowing. If there starts to be some discomfort, or perhaps discomfort that's actually a resistance, just check it out. Notice that that's happening. It could come in the form of the mind getting very busy. It could come in the form of you being drawn again and again to discomfort in the body. It could be in the form of judging your practice or judging the inquiry itself, kind of analyzing it, taking it apart, deciding, oh, maybe it's not that useful, I don't even want to do it. That resistance could come in the form of getting very sleepy. So if you're experiencing any kind of resistance, check it out. Bring that same friendliness and curiosity to the experience of resistance. And take a moment to decide, is this resistance that I want to work through by continuing the inquiry? Or is this resistance that I need to listen to because it's telling me that it's time to just go back to relaxation or to the breath? And each of us get to make our own decision about that. If you've decided to stay with the inquiry, we'll just drop this part of the inquiry a few more times. And the time of death is uncertain. And the time of death is uncertain. Okay, and we'll start to move on to the final piece of the inquiry. So we started with, since death alone is certain, and the time of death is uncertain, what should I do? So that's the last piece. What should I do? So just drop that simple phrase deep down. What should I do? And often this is where the mind starts to want to get more involved. And as I said, you can engage with the mind if it feels like it's going to be helpful in this inquiry. But remember to always come back to the body, see how the body responds to the thought. See how the body responds to an insight, because an insight can always run deeper. Even if it seems like an aha, there's more. There's always more. What should I do? Really let that one in. Let that question break your heart. Let that question shatter your beliefs. Let that question move through however it wants to, without trying to manage or control its path or what it leaves in its path. What should I do? And remember what to do with that resistance. You have options. You can choose to move through it, or you can choose to heed it and go to relaxation and the breath. And either one is a perfectly good option. But do get curious about that resistance before you do either. Because the resistance itself could be the insight. The resistance itself could be giving you some very valuable information. What should I do? If you notice yourself pushing down an answer, it's a pretty sure sign that you should inspect whatever that is that you're considering pushing down. That thing you're considering repressing. That's what we're doing here. We're making the unconscious conscious. So your challenge, should you accept it, is to look at that thing, whether it's a sensation or a thought or a combination. Look at that thing that you'd rather push back down, that you don't want anyone else to know, let alone yourself. See it, feel it, know it. What should I do? If some action comes to mind, it doesn't mean you need to go do it today or tomorrow or even this year. But don't ignore it. Let it be there. Even if you choose not to take the step right now, whatever it is. See it. And feel it. And know it. Okay, so we're going to begin to wrap this inquiry up by just putting it all together, maybe just a few times, dropping the whole question down. Since death alone is certain, and the time of death is uncertain, what should I do? Since death alone is certain, and the time of death is uncertain, what should I do? Allowing all of that to move through you. Okay, we're going to let it go now. Just let it go. We're done with the inquiry. And we're going to take a few minutes. First, to just relax anywhere that you might have tightened up. Just let it go. Let the jaw go. Let the shoulders go. Let the stomach go. Let that pelvic floor go again. And just take a couple of minutes to let go of any effort whatsoever. And if there's something you need to do to be more comfortable, go ahead and do that. Even the effort of posture, if that feels like too much right now, you can stretch your legs out, you can lie down, and just let go of doing. This was a very active meditation, so now we let go of any effort. You might still have thoughts and sensations, that's fine. If you find yourself engaging with them, see if you can let go of that. And just be. Knowing that whatever insight you gained from the inquiry will continue to develop in your life. You don't need to hold on to it. You don't need to grasp on to something that you learned. Let it all go. Relax. And if you'd like, for this last moment, if this sounds good to you, put a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart. Just offering yourself some soothing and comfort, offering whatever part of yourself maybe needs that. Soothing and comfort, support. Just letting your body know, I'm here, I'm with you. And I love you. Just feeling the rise and fall of your chest and your stomach as you breathe. Okay. And now we'll begin to transition to open eyes. As you're ready, take your time. And if you've reclined, take a moment to start to sit up. Just let your eyes adjust to the candlelight. And in just a minute, I'll turn the light on, talk a little bit. So I have this thing when I meet new people. We go get tea or something. I don't do it in like a pushy, intentional way, but I very radically embody my authentic self. If this is a person I'm considering spending like personal time with as a peer, there's no role I need to be in. I'm just there, just pure me in the moment without kind of manifesting a certain self for a given circumstance. So what I do is I will talk about the things that are important to me, the things that I like to talk about and like to think about. And those things are sex, death, money, and spirituality usually. So there's, some other ones too. But those are like things you don't talk about in polite company or something like that. Like, and you find out really quickly where other people are with those topics. And it tells me sort of what level of dialogue and connection we can have. If someone is cool with talking about spirituality but isn't so into talking about sex, well, fine. We can still be friends. If someone's like not so into talking about spirituality but is into talking about death, okay, cool. Like it can be sort of a mix match. If someone's into all of them, I'm like, okay, we are friends. And I was lucky enough this past week to have that happen twice with two new friends. I went and it was just this natural thing that happened. Now, if I meet up with somebody and kind of right away I can tell, oh, this person is not going to feel comfortable or safe with these kinds of conversations, obviously I'm not going to have them, Or if I start to and I can see, okay, this doesn't feel safe for this person, then I'm not going to continue. But I'm also probably most likely not going to become best buddies with them because those are things that I think about and talk about a lot. And I really enjoy getting other people's perspectives on. Like, even if we have wildly different perspectives or opinions, we don't agree, it's still just so rich and rewarding for me to have those conversations about these things that just feel to me more powerful. I mean, oftentimes people sit and they talk about other people. You know? That's not so interesting to me. You know, sort of like gossiping, even if it's not like ill-willed, I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. I still don't really dig it. Or people want to sit around and they want to talk about their suffering. You know, people really like to do that. Like, just sit and complain about how much everything sucks. That's like so not interesting to me. Now listen, I work with students, I work with people one-on-one, and absolutely, like, come to me and tell me how much everything sucks and we'll work on it together, you know? So that's fine. But again, if I'm in this position of this is my tiny bit of personal time, that I'm not interested in connecting on that level. And I used to be, oh my God, that used to be the only thing I would talk about. I mean, I've always been into talking about kind of the big things, but most of the time I was also talking about my suffering and replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. So one of those topics that I like talking about is death. I like to meditate on death. I like to think about it. I like to remind myself that not only are there little deaths happening all the time, there's also big deaths happening all the time, and there could be a big death of me or of someone I love at any time. Now, some people find that like morbid or negative. I don't. I find it incredibly rich and clarity producing and very vital to a good life. So many people spend so much energy ignoring the fact that they're going to die and that everyone they love is going to die. The energy that is spent on ignoring death could be used for so many other things. That's why I think it's important to look at it. That's why this is one of my favorite inquiries. I did a lot of hospice work. I did a lot of volunteering as well as running a volunteer program for hospice work. And I did that after I helped my father die, after I sat with my father for the last month of his life. And that was an incredible experience, probably one of the best experiences of my life. Definitely one of the best experiences of my life. And I got very clear through that experience on a few things. And I was able to take action around those few things. And I saw the value in contemplating and experiencing the process of death. And then just recently, this winter, as I think all of you know, I was very ill and I was in the hospital and it was quite serious. And once again, I had that experience of like a knife cutting through everything. Just like, bam, this is what's true for you. And I won't get into all the details, but there were a few key things that will result in big life changes that became very clear during that. Like that very drugged experience in the hospital, you know, like suddenly I'm like having these like insights and I'm like, all right, I'll just wait and see how I feel when I'm not on the equivalent of heroin, you know. But, you know, time passes and those insights continue to deepen. The understanding of what I should do keeps deepening and clarifying and, you know, reiterating what it showed me during those days. So I really invite you guys to work with this. So whether you work with this inquiry or find some other way to work with it, and like in Tibetan Buddhism, they do some really intense death meditations with like, I don't know, they like meditate around like corpses and with skulls and meditate on the a lot of I guess all Buddhist traditions have a lot of death meditation, but the Tibetans do it in a real cool way.
That was the guys that wrote the book, is it the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
Yeah, there's an example of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tibetan Book of the Dead. And then Hindu practices do a lot of that too. My good friend and first meditation teacher, Michael Taft, he was in India for many years, and when when the guru of the group that he was a part of died, like there were days and days and days of like death ceremony with the body and cleansing the body, burning the body, and that's a big part of that practice. So whatever works for you, right? Like you find the version of contemplating death that works for you, and play around with it, and just keep it in a non-morbid way. Keep it in your mind. Let it be in your mind. Let it be a part of your day-to-day, and start noticing all the little deaths that happen. All the little, like each word I'm saying, it's dying. Each breath I'm taking, dies, and then anew, and it dies, and then anew. Right? So there's, you go out there in the world, it's endless. Just start checking it out and seeing what you can find.